Meanwhile, Iron Man's satellite reported information that somewhere in the mountains there is some kind of illegal base where Stark's stolen weapons were. Iron Man almost immediately arrived at this place and scattered all the villains around. The case was over and it was possible to go home. At the same time, Thor was standing on a skyscraper and talking to his partner who had just arrived from Asgard. Thor looked down and saw one of the cars flying straight into a medic who was saving someone's life. It's good that Thor was able to react and this car did not have time to fly. Everyone went about their business. Iron Man delivered the villains to prison and Ant-Man interrogated the prisoner in prison. Suddenly, the power went out in the prison and all the prison cells opened. All the villains were now free. The prison began to increase in size. The prison was on the SHIELD airship. The ship began to fall and break apart due to the fact that the prison was getting bigger and bigger. The villains who got out of prison got out by destroying SHIELD agents on their way and creating lawlessness. Bruce was covered with iron debris and he could not get up. An ordinary worker came to the rescue and helped him pull him out. Bruce needed to find the Hulk's blood that was pumped out of him. Meanwhile, the villains made their way into the room with weapons, but Hawkeye did not let them do it. This lawlessness could not continue and the SHIELD ship, which had already landed on the water and was already sinking, arrived Iron Man. There was the most dangerous prisoner in this prison and he was released. At that moment, Bruce couldn't hold back and he turned into the Hulk. Now there was more chance of winning. Iron Man realized that he alone could not cope and decided to blow up the entire building. The explosion hit his suit and he fell. His assistant Jarvis informed him that villains had escaped from all three prisons. The most dangerous criminal who could control gravity got out. His name was Graviton. In the past he owned a laboratory in which he conducts his most important experiment. Suddenly there was an explosion and he blacked out. When he came to, he was strapped in because there was a lot of radiation in him. He started uncontrollably destroying the room. I didn't understand how he did it, but they managed to put gas into the room, which put him to sleep. He went to prison and he spent all this time in it. But now all the prisons were open and now Graviton, along with all the villains, were free. Graviton wanted to take revenge on Fury. He lifted him into the air and began to strangle him with gravity, but Thor did not let him kill him and hit Graviton with his hammer. Meanwhile, Iron Man tried to fly to the base, but his suit finally broke down. He ordered Jarvis to remotely call another suit to him. It only remained to wait. Meanwhile, Thor was fighting Graviton over the city and his lightning could not damage Graviton since Graviton controlled gravity. Graviton sent Thor to the bottom of the river and now a wasp woman was fighting with him. Meanwhile, Iron Man changed his suit and was already flying up to the place of battle. He hit Graviton with all speed and he fell into the water. But that wasn't all. Graviton hit Iron Man so hard that he flew into space. Seeing all this, Ant-Man enlarged himself to a giant size and tried to grab Graviton, but there was no limit to the possibilities of Graviton, and he easily threw the ant away. Graviton wanted to show the whole world his strength and began to lift part of the city into the air. Thor could not let him do it and hit Graviton and part of the city landed back in its place, but Graviton could not stop. He began to destroy the city and panic people. Suddenly a green monster appeared. It was the Hulk and he wanted to smear Graviton on the wall. Threw Graviton to another part of the city where it was safe to fight with him and the rest of the superheroes joined the Hulk to finally stop Graviton. But even when they tried to attack Graviton together, he easily repelled their attacks. Graviton realized that it was time to finish with these heroes and began to create a huge tornado. He began to push all the heroes so hard into the ground that they could not even stand up. But the Hulk was so angry that he got out of this attraction and attacked Graviton. Now every superhero could attack Graviton while he was distracted by the Hulk. Each superhero inflicted very heavy damage to Graviton and as a result, Graviton could not cope with such a power of heroes. Fury arrived at the scene of the battle and reported that there were still 74 villains at large. Iron Man suggested that all superheroes unite and catch all the villains and return them to prison. But there was something else to find out: who hacked the security system and opened all three prisons. Tony Stark bought a palace for superheroes and called it the Avengers. In this mansion there was an underground elevator that led to an underground scientific laboratory. There was everything in this laboratory, even high-speed fighters. Also in this lab, there was a training room where they could practice team skills and the Avengers started training. While the Avengers were going about their business, some woman made her way to their palace. The woman turned into Bruce and convinced the Hulk that the Avengers just wanted to use him. He believed her and left. Since the Hulk could do anything on the street, Thor followed him and tried to stop him, but the Hulk was not himself. The Avengers realized that the Hulk was enchanted and did not control himself. The Avengers tried to stop him, but the Hulk was strong and he did not control himself. The Hulk managed to escape, but suddenly they were attacked by this woman. Her name was Charmer. The Enchantress disarmed all the Avengers and was about to kill Ant-Man, but then the Hulk appeared. He came to his senses and got rid of the Enchantress' control. Thor struck Iron Man with lightning, thereby charging Tony Stark's suit. Now that the Avengers were together, it remained to catch two villains. Suddenly the Enchantress opened the portal and entered it. Thor explained that this Enchantress is from Asgard. The Avengers returned to their base and began preparing for the next missions. The Avengers team went in search of the Hulk somewhere in Antarctica. Flying over the ice, they saw a huge crater in it. They thought that the Hulk had done it and that they were already close to it. Suddenly the Iron Man said that his instruments noticed something alive in this crater. They sank into the crater and suddenly noticed the shield of Captain America, and Captain America himself was lying in the ice next to him. They could not believe their eyes. The Avengers brought the captain to their base and began to revive him. The captain came to his senses and from fright began to scatter the Avengers around. He jumped off the Avengers plane, and the burning plane flew on. Meanwhile, the Black Panther infiltrated the Avengers base while they were fighting Captain America, hacked the protection and for some reason began to study information about the Avengers. Captain America came to his senses and he realized that he had been lying under a layer of ice for many years. At this time, the head of Hydra found out that Captain America was alive and he went to finish him off. His name was Zemo. He wanted to take a DNA sample from Captain America and create a large army with his strength. In the past, Captain America constantly fought with Zemo and tried to stop him. An alarm went off at the Avengers base, which meant that monsters were attacking the city. All the Avengers went to help the city except Captain America and the Wasp Woman. Someone got into the Avengers base. It was Zemo. The battle between the strongest enemies began. Zemo looked more confident in this fight, but the Black Panther came to the rescue, which had long been unnoticed at the Avengers base. Zemo began to lose and he disappeared while Captain America was helping the Wasp Woman. Meanwhile, the Avengers were fighting a villain who stroked them all into himself. But Captain America helped the Avengers get out. Ant-Man understood how to destroy the villain. It was necessary to direct an ultrasonic beam at him and they immediately won. When all the Avengers returned to base, Tony Stark invited the captain to the Avengers and he agreed. Now the Avengers had a full-fledged team of heroes.